Okay, now that we've created our aperture shape that we can cut away from this flat, we need to create the thickness of the material that will be used for the return on the flat itself. We need to have something that's a thickness in order to do it in 3D. We're going to use 3mm for this. So this material here will be 3mm thick and outline around the edge as though it was show my lack of construction knowledge here, as though it was 3mm ply formed around, so 3mm thick ply, but 200mm wide and formed around outside of this here. What you couldn't see there is I was actually trying to show you that with my hand without a camera on. So enjoy imagining me looking completely daft recording this. Let's jump back to Vectorworks here. We have our shape here, our arch geometry. We want to make this whole thing 3mm bigger. Now we could try and draw this again in 3mm wide, but that would be very boring. Thankfully, Vectorworks has a tool for this. It has a tool called the offset tool. And with 2D objects, such as this rectangle or this shape here, it will offset the entire object, 2D geometry, by 3mm or by any sort of millimeter distance that you want it to do. It's a really handy tool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select my arch, window aperture, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to find the offset tool, and the offset tool looks like this tool here. It has a little arrow with a bold line, and not so bold line. Tool. If I click on this, there's a couple of things I'm going to want to check. I'm going to want to make sure that I'm in duplicate and offset mode, because the other mode here will just resize the current object, and I don't want that, because what I want to do is make a bigger arch aperture, 3mm bigger all the way around, and I want to effectively cut out a smaller one from that to create a 3mm outline that I can use, and then I want to cut smaller window aperture from this big flat as well. So I want to make sure that I am duplicating this so I have two objects and not one. In the distance here, I click that, and I'm going to just press 3, hit enter, and that means that this will offset the object 3mm. And I can define whether it goes bigger or smaller by whether I click inside or outside. And because I want to make this bigger, because this is the correct aperture, this is the hole I want in the flat to be visible, I can just move to the outside here and click once. Eagle-eyed of you may notice that its shape will have changed. 3mm isn't a lot. It's very difficult to see. Now, before you do anything, do not click again. You are still in offset mode. If you keep clicking inside and outside, you are going to keep offsetting the shape the more you click. When you have done that offset, make sure you go back to your selection, either clicking the selection arrow in the basic toolset or pressing X. That is vital because you'll end up not knowing what is going on. It happens before, it happens to me. Always make sure when you're starting to click, you're clicking with the right tool. It's going to sound like a broken record there, but you will thank me later, I promise. Now, you can see here it doesn't look like much has changed. If I zoom in, I can't really see two objects, but you see this little dashed line that appears here. Vectorworks is telling me that something is underneath that. And what this means is that this object, the bigger offset, is sitting on top, just like a bit of paper. That object is sitting on top of that smaller object, so I can't see it anymore. I've covered it over. I want to be able to see this other object, this smaller aperture. And I can do this by sending this object back one. So basically like reforming, like restacking sheets of paper on top of each other, bigger and smaller sheets of paper on top of each other. And I do that with the object selected, right clicking inside it, and there is a send option. And there are several here. There's send to front, send forward, send to back, send backwards. Now send to front will bring it automatically on top of everything. Send to back will send it automatically behind everything. So if I were to choose that now, this would go behind the large rectangle as well, and it will disappear from view, and that's boring. Send backward will send it one object back in its stacking order. So whatever you've drawn it on top of, it will send it backward one step. So if I click send back now, you can see that line looks thicker. If I zoom in, I now see these two objects, which is great. So that's that step done. We now have an internal window arch that is the right size that we want to cut out from everything. We have a larger window arch object, which is 3 millimeters. If I jump to my little measure tool and the basic tool set and I click from there to there, it says 3. I know that's correct. And press escape to get out of that. X. Keyboard functions have gone again. Fantastic. So what I want to do now is I want to basically cut this smaller window arch here out of the bigger window arch and out of this rectangle, and that's me effectively punching my hole right the way through all of it. And much like the Add Surface tool, some of you may have spotted one that's called Clip Surface in the Modify. That means that clipping surface will basically subtract those two surfaces from each other and clip them from each other. And what I need to do is, again, much like the Add Surface tool, I'm going to need to have both objects selected, or the two objects I want to clip from each other selected. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to do the window arch first. So again, I'm going to hold Shift and click here. That selected both those objects. And now if I go to Modify, go down to this Clip Surface tool, and I'm going to hit Clip Surface. It doesn't look like much has changed. However, you can see rather than two objects being selected, now it's just this internal one. And what that Clip Surface tool has done is it has subtracted these two away from each other, but it's kept this center one rather than deleting it, which is handy. It's what we want, because I can now hold down my Shift key. Hey, my tool little things have come back. And select this bigger rectangle here. And I can run the same command again. Go to Modify and Clip Surface, and you'll see the external rectangle here is no longer selected. And it's just this internal one. I'm going to click out of that. So now what we've done, just to recap, is we have taken away the smaller window arch aperture from the bigger one, leaving a 3 mm surround. You can see that there. Nice. We've also taken, again, that smaller internal window aperture away from this bigger rectangle, and we've punched the hole in that set. And now if I click and select that smaller window arch geometry, if I drag this out by clicking and holding, you'll see I've got a hole through it. Yay! And that starts to look a lot like this. The hubs. I'm just going to leave that over there. You never know. This is why we have a sketch layer and we have a sketch class. You never know when this object here might be useful again. My advice to you is that unless you're totally sure you're not going to use an internal thing again, or an object or something you've drawn again, leave it on your sketch layer, drag it out of the way, because if I need to redraw this again, it's going to take time. Whereas if I haven't deleted it, pressing the del key, then just easily use it again. A little hint, a little tip there. You can see that I've accidentally clicked. I have accidentally clicked on one of these snap points when it was in this diagonal, wanting to resize. If you do this, fear not, press escape 2 times, and that will take you out of that. Further out. So we have our 2-dimensional drawn objects that we can start creating 3D objects out of. And the next thing we're going to do is we are going to use extrude to give these their depth and their thickness.